Good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be here this morning. We're about to start in a few seconds here. I think you have let me see here. Okay, here we go. I'm going to just show my screen here. Perfect. Good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be here this morning again. Sorry, I just had a little bit of a technical glitch there. I am joined today with Amalia, Michelle, and Chris Balon, who's our in-house adaptive SEO expert and also SEO strategist. And definitely, he's going to be with us today, and he has an interesting topic to discuss in regards to mistakes made when you're beginning to do SEO. So I'll get into that. But before we begin, just wanted to do a bit of a sound check. If you can just let me know that you can hear me fine, perfect. That'll be great through chat, and then we will roll out. All right. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. We were trying to keep our Launchpad webinar series very educational. This week, as I had promised, this month in January, we wanted to have a guest speaker, and I was able to get our own Chris Balon to talk about SEO best practices and some of the rookie mistakes that can happen and how to avoid them. We also have some really good news and articles as well, and hope that you enjoy them. We're going to be talking about WordPress and SEO, as well as an update from Google's recent changes, and we'll get into more of that as we move into the article section. So to begin, Amalia, I believe that you're going to be beginning with us in regards to a specific report pertaining to Google.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, good morning, everyone. I just quickly want to share this article that I came across. It's called Google is down basically by 1 billion PC searches, basically going back from 2014, but mobile volumes will likely go up. Bing basically gains in the latest .com score report. All others are basically flat. So as of December, desktop search rankings from .com score came out basically last week, and Bing gained slightly versus November. Most others are off a fraction by a point. Google has lost some market share and volume versus a year ago when it had a share of 65.4%. A year ago, Bing was at about 19.7%. Today, it's at a 21.1%. However, these data, they basically only tell part of the story because they don't include the mobile search. If you look at the next image, basically the other graph that we have there, .com score says that in terms of the total market share, including powered by search, Google controlled 64.8% of U.S. Search query volumes, while Bing powered about 32.2% of organic search. The data basically shows that it shows month-over-month desktop search volume is flat. Compared with a year ago, where the PC queries were down about 1.2 billion overall. That's most likely attributed to declining queries on Google, which may have transferred to mobile. Also, as indicated in the chart and the data, they basically don't reflect the mobile search volumes, which are probably relatively modest for Bing and Yahoo, but quite significant for Google. The company said last year that the mobile queries surpassed PC search volumes in numerous countries, including the US. Accordingly, we can assert this with some confidence, assuming that the .com score estimates above are correct, that Google's total search volume is at least 2 times the numbers reflected in the chart shown. Basically, they've already in the past .com score should now be providing the market with a combined view of the mobile and PC search volumes. Hopefully they will. And by looking only at the PC data, we get a distorted, basically, view of the actual state of the U.S. search market. So hopefully they'll, add that in future. Armando, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, thank you, Mali. I'm just going to go back, and I think this is a little bit, well, it's quite important to note here that a
Yeah.
couple of things here. Number one is that Google just lost 1 billion PC searches, right? When you compare year over year. So year over year, 1
Mm-hmm.
billion in PC searches it's a lot. It's a lot of searches. And the other thing is that Microsoft and through via Bing and its network has been gaining ground, not significantly ground, but when you look at the numbers, it does make sense to always keep in mind not just your focus on Google, but also on Bing and seeing what is it that you have to do in your sites to keep them SEO friendly, as well as the paid advertising opportunities, right? Microsoft and Bing, or the Microsoft network, has been very, very busy in trying to, and very active in trying to develop different relationships, and that has positively developed into an increase in searches, at least in the US, right? Now, worldwide numbers may differ, but it gives you an indication that they are growing, and specifically when a year ago they were at 19.7% and now at 21, it definitely shows an increase. Yes, Google continues to be the big monster, the big gorilla, but again, they've lost from 65.4 to 63. They've lost about 2 points, but those 2 points equate to about a billion searches, right? So that's very important. Again, this is the US, and we're talking about desktop, right? The second point that you mentioned, which is very clear, is that um, uh, it is approximate that PC queries are down 1.2 billion overall. So it does tell you that obviously mobile has definitely increased, and hopefully we'll get to see some scores in regards to mobile traffic in the next few weeks as these reports keep being generated. But again, as we had mentioned last week, in some areas through a report that was done for local businesses. Some companies, from a business perspective, they're still using PCs in their office. So as a result, most of their searches do happen in a PC versus a laptop or a mobile. It looks like B2C is predominantly mobile searches, although you can also argue that very forward-thinking companies are also focusing on arming their teams with mobile phones so they can do their own searches and their own investigation and product research or service research via PC. But just getting to the bottom line, PC queries also down by 1.2 billion overall, and that's important to note. Again, these stats, we share them with you for a number of reasons. A, for you to be up to date, and number two, for your presentations. If a client is asking you or wants to know, you can definitely see here that Google is controlling 64.8% of U.S. search query volume, while Bing, through everything that they've done, controls 32.2%. So very, very important to note that. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mali. I think you also have to share something in regards to what's going on with the quote unquote core algorithm.
Yes, so basically, Google explains what it means to be part of the core algorithm. Basically, to be core, the algorithm needs to be consistent enough to run by itself without much worry that it won't work right. So Panda is basically part of Google's core ranking algorithm and has gotten SEOs buzzing about what exactly it is to be part of the core algorithm. So now Google has shared some more information about this, stating that the algorithm is consistent enough not to require many changes in the future, and they can basically run with less hand-holding. One of the Google representatives stated that they spent a good amount of time coordinating this video. We did attach a link there for viewing, which basically explains much of the confusion around what it means to be part of this core algorithm. It's basically not, once you view the actual video, it basically explains that it's less about functionality. It basically means it probably doesn't change that much over time, and it's more about how we perceive it in the context of the algorithm. They're saying, do we basically think this is still an experimental thing? And because it's been running for a while, and they're basically not sure how long this will last, or if it's basically something like page ranking, if it's part of that, or if it's basically foreseeable change in the future. Basically, there's a lot of questions, and basically there's the video explains what it is to be part of this whole core algorithm. So if we get a chance, definitely look onto that link, and yeah, provide you more information. Armando?
Yes, just before we get into this whole topic, and thank you, Amalia, for sharing this with us. It's a bit of a technical topic in regards to the core algorithm. So just before I move into that topic, I just want to bring on Chris. He had some
Mhm.
feedback also, and I do apologize. I should have included him in the earlier slide, but he did have some feedback in regards to So let me see if I can go back here. Yeah, in regards to the searches, the change in search happening in the U.S. So, Chris, I do believe you have control. Welcome and good morning.
Fantastic. Thank you, Armando. Hi, everybody. Just a quick thing to add regarding the Google PC searches down. We should take into account here that Microsoft also has recently rolled out their Windows 10 update and upgrade. So a lot of people on older operating systems like Windows 7 have recently upgraded to Windows 10, and one of the features of something like Windows 8 and Windows 10 is that the built-in search functionality is Bing. So a lot more PC devices are now using Bing as a default search engine. So that's something to be considered here as well, especially during the last quarter of 2015, is that a lot of PCs are now on the newer Microsoft operating system, and that Microsoft operating system is powered by Bing. So that's one of the reasons we could be looking at for a decrease in PC Google searches, is because now Bing is just default for a lot of reasons. If you type into your search bar on Windows 10, it's not Google that's being used, it's Bing by default. So again, that could be just one of the reasons why a little bit of that market share is being lost by Google.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and that makes definite sense. It's one of the many things that Microsoft is doing to regain some market share. I believe. Well, last year I spoke with I had the opportunity to speak with the CTO of Microsoft here in Canada, and he was very optimistic. I thought he was very optimistic about Bing's or Microsoft's. Aggressive or Microsoft ambitions in regards to search. And yes, you're definitely right. The new rollout of Windows has had an impact. And the fact that most of their systems and even video consoles are by default using Bing, so you're seeing more of that use. But thank you for sharing that with us, Chris. Um, good. So moving along, and I know that you're also going to provide us our feedback also here, Chris, in a topic that's been around the SEO world, buzzing, if you will. There is
Mhm.
no real answer. There's a lot of questions, a lot of ambiguity. It's SEOs are trying to determine, okay, what is this quote unquote core algorithm? And Google, as Amalia has shared with us, has kind of turned around and said the algorithm is consistent enough to not require many changes in the future and can run with less hand holding. I had a chance, and I'm going to actually post this video in the next few seconds on YouTube, and it was by one of Google's specialist and also a voice, and he's very active in Google Hangouts, and he talked about the fact that it's in reality at the end of the day there isn't any major changes that we have to worry about. These are just updates that have been done into the system. From our perspective, at least as a production team, the bottom line is that at this stage today, we have to keep an eye on it, but we do not have to change our strategy, our adaptive SEO methodology to be able to adapt to it. Would that change in the future? Well, as you know, Google does make changes, but it still does not give us the answers or the details that perhaps we want to know. So there is that level of confusion. But the video does share some good, interesting points in regards to the fact of how Google actually goes about making these updates, these changes, how the how they work with the core algorithm, etc. So I'll have you post it in there because it's about 5 6. Well, the video is about an hour and a half, but the time that they speak about these algorithms is about 10 minutes. So I'll just post it where it starts and have a look at it. You don't have to be an SEO expert, but at least it'll give you some idea on what it's all about. Chris, I know that you and I were talking a little bit about it before the webinar. Maybe you want to share your feedback based on our experience and what we've been able to research with the team.
Absolutely. Now, there was recently an update released to Google's algorithm earlier this month that a lot in the industry were speculating was a new core algorithm update. And being a core algorithm update means that we kind of need to reassess Google's weighting in regards to some of the usual SEO suspects, say our backlinks being less emphasized, etc. Now, it was confirmed that this month's earlier update is not a core algorithm update, but rather just a tweak to the existing core algorithm, meaning that it's not something that we need to go back to the drawing board over. It's not something that's going to make us reassess everything that we do in regards to SEO. What are the best practices? Has that changed? Has the SEO world been turned on its head thanks to the whims of Google yet again? But this most recent update is not a core algorithm update. It has been a tweak, and in my research, it's been shown that the biggest impact that this month's tweak to the algorithm has been felt is overseas in Europe and Australia. We've seen some changes and some impact in regards to ranking, both positive and negative, but largely North American clients are unaffected right now. We are kind of waiting on the next core algorithm update to see what changes have been made, what weighting there is to, like I said, the usual SEO suspects, and how that's going to affect some of our adaptive campaigns. How are we going to change alongside the algorithm and the industry?
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, and as Chris has mentioned, at this stage we don't have enough information for us to, be really focusing on changing our methodology or our approach. It's just a matter of following this specific guidelines and just keeping an eye and an ear to the ground to make sure, or an eye and an ear to the ground, just to make sure that we're following process. But yes, have a look at the video. I mean, it's the Andre is the Google senior strategist that talks a little bit about it, and even within themselves, there's a lot of questions. So I'm pretty sure it's about a 5-minute video that they talk about it. So um, definitely. We have to look at that. So again, and as Chris has also mentioned, we are looking at some of these changes really primarily happening overseas. But wanted to share that video with you as well. Excellent. Okay, so moving along, I wanted to touch base on another very interesting topic, which I wanted to share with you before we bring Chris and very quickly go through this as much as possible. Um, and it's in regards to local SEO for WordPress websites. What are those best business practices? And the gentleman that provided this article does share some good insights, as well as some best business practices, statistics, and customer feedback, if you will, based on their experience. So, as WordPress is primarily one of the top CMSs, according actually to builtwith.com. Um, Apparently, or indicates that 50% of the entire internet runs on WordPress, right? They're saying that about 20% of new active sites are WordPress, and 58.9% of sites where CMS are known are WordPress sites. So WP WordPress has become, let's say, the content management system specifically for small to mid-sized companies, right? However, having said that, there is a because it's an open source solution, there's some negative or misinformation sometimes from mid to enterprise level companies who don't like WordPress because of the fact that it's open source, and they try to in essence put it down. But if you look at this, some statistics indicate that 40% of the top 100,000 websites use WordPress, and this number jumps to 50% when we look at the top million sites. So if any time you get a question from a client that is questioning WordPress or the capabilities of WordPress, companies like TechCrunch, The New Yorker, BBC America, Search Engine Land, which is obviously a search engine news online magazine, and even the official Star Wars blog uses WordPress. Okay, so this is not, I'm not trying to advertise WordPress, I'm just trying to state the facts that WordPress is a very good content management system that you should consider. Now, I know that some clients still want to work with Drupal or Joomla, and they also have their benefits and also their cons, their advantages and disadvantages. But I just wanted to kind of focus a little bit on local SEO for WordPress, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to also be bringing Chris to share some feedback on that as well. And if I'm getting some questions, um, uh, do let me know that if you have them. So the first thing is why WordPress. It's a very flexible platform. Hundreds and hundreds of plugins allow for easy extension functionality. There's hundreds of themes available out there, and the key thing that matters here is that it allows for a lot of flexibility, right? WordPress is easy to use based on studies done on the user ability. There is actually a far shorter learning curve and much less customer support required in regards to your clients being able to use it, right? And usability is definitely important, because if your clients are not comfortable using the CMS platform, they're not going to be updating their site. So if they've left it untouched, then you can see the fact that people are not going to be updating their websites, etc. Which can be a positive thing, because you can also offer them a maintenance program, etc. from your side as a consultant, right? Have your in-house coordinator manage that. Yes, I understand that there have been some issues, like any platform, any CMS platform, where you do have to update the extensions or the plugins, as well as you have to update WordPress. But that will go hand in hand with any CMS, whether it's Joomla, Drupal, whether it's other CMSs like Sitecore, for example, or there's so many of them out there. These CMSs do require from time to time upgrades. And even if you're using .NET, DNN content management systems, I mean, this is part of the world that we live in, right? We do need upgrades and updates, right? Not only upgrades to the actual core of the CMS, but also plugin updates, and that presents itself some challenges. But anyhow, apart from that, it looks like it's still one of the leading platforms being used, right? If you look at the numbers, right? So if you are using WordPress, or if you're thinking of recommending WordPress, this is why I wanted to share that with you. And the other thing is that it's a very SEO friendly platform. It's really right off the shelf. And as I've shared this with many ICs in the past, Google does, for some reason, because of the structure, definitely likes to crawl and index content in WordPress sites more than other CMSs. So you have to take that into consideration as a pro, right? Now, an SEO or adaptive SEO platform, if you will, definitely you can see the fact that it allows you to build in the right tools into it. And once your site's developed and it has the functionality extended with a range of plugins, you can also start adding the proper content and organize and categorize that content in a hierarchical fashion. So it gives you that opportunity. We'll talk a little bit about taxonomy as well in a second. But when you're looking at the way it's structured, the CMS, the themes, the plugins, all of these things are very important. And one of the key things that the author talks about is that the goal here is to filter out anything that should not exist for users and ensure the search engine knows this is to be ignored. So this goes to the point that when you're ever building a new website, always have SEO in mind, and you have to guide your programming team as well. That means that you have to provide them with proper sitemap. If there are some directories that you want no follows, to make sure that that's added. And throughout the build process, actually, even in the design process, always consider SEO in mind. And one of the key things that the author talks about is the flexibility that WordPress has in regards to taxonomies, right? Which is the basic concept of really grouping things together. So, category, link category, post format, and post tagging, right? Which in essence allows search engines to crawl easier, right? So, in regards to taxonomies, just kind of getting into that perspective, that hierarchical feature that's available within WordPress and that grouping that can support subgroupings. So in this case, let's say category, right? You have your category pages, your subcategory, and then you have your subcategory. It's very SEO friendly. And if you're building a site with this in mind, make sure that you have a proper sitemap, right? And make sure that from the onset you're building this with an SEO friendly way. Sometimes what we've seen in the mistakes that are made are that programmers just build these websites without proper taxonomies and without proper hierarchical structure. And when we start doing some SEO, it can definitely create problems. Right. I know many ICs love to use WordPress Genesis, very great feature, and because of the fact that it's really, very easy to configure. If you're building your own website, just make sure that you are using proper taxonomies, right? So what is an example? Animals, for example, is a category, a subcategory of that is dogs. And under that we have different types of dogs, and under, so for example, in this case, collies, right, which is one breed of dogs, and within that you have a subbreed, bearded collies. So what the benefit that you have with WordPress is it allows you to organize your content very easy, so it's SEO friendly. So it's important to know this, because if you're not doing this properly, definitely will ruin your SEO, well, your SEO efforts, right? Now the benefit, like I mentioned, is that Google will do a pretty good job of filtering these pages out if you've put the right codes, for example, for no follows. However, search engines will always ensure they're crawling and indexing the actual pages that you want to present to your prospects and customers in search. So if you're leaving it open for everything to be searched, Google will do a good job. And if you've done an excellent job in categorizing your website from the beginning through a proper taxonomy, definitely it will be much faster and easier to crawl, right? One of the problems that we have seen crop up again and again is that taxonomy pages with the same keywords as legitimate landing pages for sliders and other content. And we've seen that also, that if you are not properly naming your pages, it can also create problems, right? So one of the recommendations that I would say is, if you are working on a new website and you have a sitemap or a layout of this sitemap, speak with your SEO team, speak with your technical team, and help them understand what you want to achieve. So that way, when this new website is launched, it has proper structural architecture, in essence, right? From a link inner link perspective, or taxonomies, right? Because if you don't have that, you're definitely going to have some issues in confusing the search engines if you have double the pages or double links with very similar naming structure, optimizing for specific keywords. Now, I know, Chris, that from our perspective, our team typically does some pre-launch checklists on, or pre-SEO launch checklists on new websites. But perhaps you can share some of your experience in regards to the proper or the best business practices in regards to taxonomies.
Excellent. Thanks, Armando. One of the big examples in regards to the taxonomies that needs to be observed is in regards to your blogs and your blog filtering. If you've got a pharmaceuticals blog, and then you've got a subcategory for pharmaceuticals research, and then you've got a subcategory for pharmaceutical executives research, then you've essentially got three filtered category pages that is all using the same keyword of pharmaceuticals in it. And if you're trying to rank for something in regards to pharmaceuticals, you're going to start to confuse Google a little bit by having three different layers of three different indexes with three different categories of content, or levels of content in each of them, filtering down. And what you should be doing in regards to taxonomies is ensuring that those index pages, say I just want to see pharmaceuticals research, if I click on that, then that's going to bring up all of the posts tagged with pharmaceutical research. That's not necessarily a page that you want indexed by Google. That's something that a subcategory or part of the taxonomy that you don't necessarily want indexed. You want your users finding the end content pages as opposed to just an index of content. So that's something that needs to be observed here as well. When you start filtering down, you end up with index pages that just have layers and layers and layers of content within them. You really want the end piece of content being what you're targeting people towards, not the indexed pages, just because they do share a keyword. So having a nofollow in there ensures that Google sees the end page as the most relevant page. That content page that you're creating with good SEO content and a good interlinking strategy is what you're going to want to appear in search engines, as opposed to just an index of all of the content that you have. And part of that is ensuring that when you launch, those index pages aren't being followed. Aren't being indexed. They aren't the ones that are being ranked in Google. Those category pages aren't the ones that are showing up in your Google searches.
Oh, thank you, Chris, for that. Excellent. Yeah, and again, I mean, the best recommendation is to work with your SEO team, work with your technical team, so that way your programming team understands what you want to achieve from an SEO perspective. Because programmers, as much as you want them to be thinking SEO friendly, they're just thinking programming, and they don't sometimes think what's the best way of organizing content or your pages, right? So definitely connect with them. I'm getting a lot of questions about WP, and we will try to address them. So I'm going to move quickly through this so I can try to address them as well. One of the key benefits about WordPress is the SEO plugin, right? Now there's a different number of plugins out there. I know that two of the ones that we see the most are Yoast and all-in-one SEO pack, and there's a free and a premium version. But what these plugins really allow you to do is allow you to optimize your WordPress site with, apart from just your standard optimization, you can even do news, video, and local SEO modules. But at the core of things, whether you're using all-in-one SEO pack or Yoast, there's difference of opinions in both plugins, SEO plugins. The key thing is to making sure that you set up properly your general settings, that was protocols, your subdomain names, your top-level domain name, your XML sitemap, your canonical URLs, your permalinks. Your SEO meta content is set properly. Your social settings are set. Any tools that you're using are set, and even making sure that your Search Console and your Google Analytics have been integrated and tested, right? So again, WordPress gives you a good foundation, and either you can take this tool and super optimize it, or you only use the things that you need to optimize, right? Obviously, the more settings that you have, the more work it will take to set it up and configure it. But also at the same time, the benefit of that is that you have a proper tuned car engine, that has all the quirks and all the neat little things that are going to make it run fast, right? So that's very important. Now, this is a key thing that you want to consider for local SEO with WordPress, and it's in regards to locations and services, right? So when you're creating content, in order for you to have a very impressive, if you will, impressive results with WordPress and local SEO, you want to make sure that you have a location setting, you have a services setting, so that way, you're able to properly optimize locally. Right. And I know, Chris, from our experience working with Adaptive SEO and some of the clients that we're working with, we always talk to ICs about making sure that if your client services multiple locations, that you do set up location pages and that these are optimized, right? And in that recommendation that's given by the author here is that, there is a relationship between your locations and your services. And to do this, we create detailed pages for each location in each service. And then you want to link these together. So for example, if you are a plumber in Toronto or in New York, for example, and obviously there's so many bureaus in New York City, for example, and you want to target Yonkers, or you want to target only Manhattan, you want to make sure that you have a proper location page set for that specific bureau, if you will. And at the same time, if there's a specific service that you want to offer, so let's say sink, kitchen sink repair, for example, or bathroom repairs, or commercial plumbing, you want to make sure that you set a specific SEO page for that service with its location. So you want to be very clear as possible to the machine, meaning the search engine, that the service and location are related. And the way to do that, the way our team does it, is they use proper interlinking. Chris, you want to add a couple of things in regards to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the relationship between your locations and your services, but it's also your location pages, like your Google My Business page. Having that strong relationship there as well only helps your local rankings. One of the strategies that I employ for many of my clients personally is ensuring that your locations pages, and you should have a page for each of your locations, has your Google map listed on it, has schema properly optimized on it, and ensure that you're linking to specific services as well. A strategy that I recommend is that you have a service page for each of your locations. So if you've got a New York office and a Toronto office, have a Toronto services page, and then a page under that for each of your services. And then each of those services links to your Toronto locations page, and that has your Toronto specific contact information on it, and your Toronto specific contact form on it, and your Toronto Google Map pin on it. Same for your New York office. You've got New York services. Each service you have has an individual page under that, and each of those pages links to your New York locations page, which has your New York contact information and contact form and maps pin on it. It's creating that interlinking strategy, and it's creating that relationship between your services, between your locations, between your offsite locations and citations you've built. That's going to help promote your local SEO above anything else. It's creating that strong relationship that's going to bring you that success.
Excellent. No, thank you, Chris. And one of the key things is that at the heart of this, as part of this equation, is trying to have as much unique content. So if you do have service pages if you have locations that are different but with very identical services, try to make sure that you have unique content, right?
Absolutely.
That's going to be very key. And as you've pointed out, I mean, some of the key things that you can do, for example, with Yoast, and again, these are some features that can be done with a plugin, or even a programmer can add these features through code, through the CMS, or through the backend. And it is obviously things like schema.org for address, opening hours, a Google Maps with a route planner. These are nice things to have. These are not, I mean, these are things that will help you, will boost it, but it's not like, a mandatory thing. If I don't have a Google Maps with a route planner, am I doing good SEO? These are good things to have, right? A store locator, support for multiple location businesses. So there's a lot of different extensions out there that will also assist you from a usability perspective. But from an SEO perspective, you want to make sure that you have, the majority of this. And part of our adaptive SEO strategy is to have schema.org formatted into it, correct? So, so the general advice is to create location pages using the tool, and to ensure these are linked to your service pages. Very quick and easy, and ensures that you have truly useful location pages. Beyond the technical aspects of WordPress, you want to make sure that you have a comprehensive content marketing strategy, starting with your optimized website pages, information pages, services pages, locations pages that we've talked about, but also have a supporting strategy in regards to ongoing posts, articles, video, infographics. So we all know that. I don't want to be preaching to the choir. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you take care of citations, reviews, and reputation. You want to make sure that you have a well-balanced off-page optimization strategy, right? And specifically for local business websites, right? Because sometimes when you bring on these clients and you acquire these clients, they don't have strong SEO authority or link popularity. You want to make sure that the best way to generate results and to take an advantage of this is to have a well-structured site. And if you want to get have a great start off the gate, you want to make sure you do that. You have a very well-structured site, and then all of the other components, once you start doing SEO, will help it, right? Now, one of the key things that where this can fall apart is if you have niggling technical problems that can crop up all too often in Know this: low budget WordPress websites that are built on the back of sometimes wobbly themes. And that's one of the issues that sometimes, we try to overcome, is to make sure that we're working on a very, very, very strong WordPress theme to make sure that, somewhat clean. So
Mhm.
that's very important. Chris, just to finalize, anything that you wanted to add to this one?
Sure. That last point is very important, as sometimes website's theme, while it might make your site look fantastic, a lot of shortcuts are made to make a theme look the way that it looks, and a lot of these shortcuts are often intentionally programmed poor code choices, which can affect things like the load time of your site or how a page loads. Dictating so specifically how your page looks can often negatively impact it as well. One of the deliverables that we include in our campaigns is a W3C compliance validation report. And that's where we take a look at all of the coding errors across the site, and we fix the ones that we can fix. But any ones that are left over are usually ones that are intentionally programmed into the theme of a site. And the higher that number gets, say you get 20, 30, 40 W3C errors that have to be left in because of your site's theme, the more potential issues you're running into down the road, SEO-wise.
Perfect. No, I totally agree with you. Now I'm getting a lot of great questions, and I'm going to try to address them towards the end because I'm running a little bit behind here, and I know that Chris, you want to share, but we'll come back if we're unable to address this. Trust me, next week we'll touch on the same topic and we'll have answers to your questions and we'll share them with you to make sure that we get some good interaction. But just for just for the purpose of moving to the next topic. Um, I had invited Chris to join us in regards to some of the rookie mistakes that are sometimes made in regards to SEO. So, Chris, take it away, and then we'll address the questions with the IC afterwards.
Fantastic. Thanks, Armando. Now, everybody when getting into SEO has kind of preconceived notions. We all do our little bit of research, and we all want to provide what's best for our clients, but we've got to ensure that what we want to provide for our clients and what we should be providing for our clients are in line, in sync. There are some rookie mistakes that can be made that we want to avoid. And I just wanted to bring up some of the common pitfalls in regards to SEO, in regards to reporting. And one of the first rookie mistakes is, of course, not knowing the basics. It's one thing to sell a client on an SEO package, but it's another thing to know what is involved in SEO and what's involved in these SEO packages. When you see something like site optimization or page optimization, what does that actually involve? And you can see a great little graphic here on the right-hand side regarding the periodic table of SEO success factors. And these are kind of the generalized buckets that we like to hit for SEO. But we really need to know before we move into actually performing this, what makes a well-optimized site, what makes a well-optimized page, and knowing these standards is only going to arm you. And not knowing them is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. What makes a well-optimized site? Making sure analytics is installed, Search Console is verified, you have your technical foundation in place, like robots and sitemap and schema optimization. That's things that we all take care of in the opening days of an SEO campaign, because the sooner that they're in place, the sooner they start impacting positively your SEO performance. And of course, what makes a well-optimized page? We're optimizing sometimes dozens of pages across a client's site, but what does that actually entail? And you should be as informed on this as we are. Optimizing a page includes optimizing metadata, the page titles and meta descriptions. It means that there's enough content on a page. It means that the content that's there is optimized. Is there an internal linking strategy? Are there images on the page? Are those images optimized? That's what makes a well-optimized page. And I've included a few resources here, Moz Academy and QuickSprout, that include some of the cliff notes on good SEO optimization, what we should be looking for and what we should be looking to hit when it comes to basic SEO optimization. And I recommend that every IC has a passing knowledge of some of these phrases and some of these terms and some of the deliverables that we include in our campaign. I'm always more than willing to explain them, but it's something that a little bit of homework isn't going to hurt. Now, the second rookie mistake is not communicating failures along with successes. This is very important. No one ever wins 100% of the time, of course, cheating notwithstanding. But it's important to tell the client, you see, sometimes we don't always win. Sometimes there are going to be failures or lack of successes throughout a campaign. There are going to be pain points that you need to emphasize with the client. You can't always pick out, oh, your organic traffic increased by 15% this month, and then under your breath say, oh, by the way, your rankings are all down. You really need to make that clear and transparent to the client. Otherwise, they're going to be facing some unrealistic expectations, and they're going to be in for a rude awakening if we see consistent points of decline or consistent pain points throughout a campaign. Keep in mind that one point of data alone is not a pattern. If you see a keyword drop in ranking 1 month, or your client's organic traffic decrease in 1 month, that's not something to call the police about. That's something to bring up with your client, to keep an eye on, and to ensure it's involved in your strategy moving forward. To ensure that the client is informed on your strategies as well, you need to be following up your bad news with action plans and strategies. You have to communicate the bad news along with the good. It's always painful and nobody likes communicating bad news, but it's a necessary part of SEO to realize what needs to be done and needs to be addressed. And clients always appreciate that honesty. And with our action plans and strategy comes more reliability and more emphasis on the expertise that comes with hiring people like ourselves. Okay. Rookie mistake number 3 is not focusing on conversions and client benefits. Just in the last slide, I picked out 2 points that I would commonly emphasize in progress reports: traffic and rankings. The third part of that trifecta is conversions. What benefit is that traffic, and what benefit are those rankings bringing to the client? The client's concern is, what's my return on investment? How are you making me more successful? And we have to be able to answer that. And that comes in tracking conversions, setting goals, both on-page and off-page, and throughout the different kinds of conversions. You have to ask the client, what is a conversion to you? We might have some preconceived notions that a conversion to a client is a successful completion of their contact form. So we might be communicating to the client, you had 17 successful completions of your contact form during the past 30 days. That's phenomenal. But then the client comes to you and says, oh, well, you know, I'd really just prefer that people spend more than 5 minutes on my site. Okay, well, why didn't you ask that question first? Why haven't you asked the client in the opening days of a campaign, what do you want people on your site doing? What is a conversion to you? Do you prefer they call in? Do you prefer they email in? Do you prefer they fill out a form? Do you prefer that they leave your site to go to, say, one of your distributors? Right? Those are all different forms of conversions, and you can see this list of conversions here. They're all different conversions. Has somebody redeemed a promotion code? Has somebody donated? Have they filled out a form? Did they submit a review? Those are all different kinds of conversions, and you should be asking your clients within the opening days of a campaign. When we send you the survey to send to your clients, we should be ensuring that we know what is a successful conversion. Because the sooner we can be reporting on successful conversions, the sooner we can be showing the client what is your ROI. How are we making you more successful? You've received 2 more conversions this month than last month, which means you're improving, which means you're making more money, you're making more sales, you're getting more people reviewing your business, you're getting more eyes on the site. Depends on what the client needs here, and we shouldn't be entering a campaign with preconceived notions of what a client wants in regards to a conversion. Okay. Rookie mistake number 4 is over-optimizing. Right? Once you've gotten over rookie mistake number 1 of knowing the basics, it's another thing to know when to apply these basics. It's not a blanket application of the basics of SEO to every page and every site. You need to make sure that optimizations are appropriate for a page, right? Don't stuff a page or metadata or content with potential optimizations. There are some rules of thumb to follow in regards to optimization. Not every page of your site needs 500 to 1,000 words of content. Not every page of your site needs H1 to H4 headers or 50 images. Don't make a page unattractive or unusable just for SEO purposes. Keep in mind that a client site is still for the visitor. It's not for SEO. You want to make sure that it's both usable and functional. Right? So some of the rules of thumb here are to keep content to a 200-word minimum. Right? Not every page of content needs 1,000 words of content. Right? One image is appropriate on many content pages. You don't need 15 unless you're showing off different forms of a product or different images of a location if you're selling property. Right? Those are some applications where you need multiple images on a page, but for the most part, one image is fine on a page. It gives us something to optimize, and it gives us something to break up the content on a page for a visitor. Right? Keep a 1-to-1 ratio of pages to keywords. What that means is optimize one page for one keyword. Don't try and optimize one page for 6 or 7 keywords. While there's something to be said for overlap in your keyword phrases, ideally you want enough supporting content on a client's site to support a 1-to-1 ratio. That being said, a client might be looking to optimize 10 keywords, but only have 5 pages on their site. In that case, we shouldn't be stuffing a page, optimizing 2 or 3 keywords to a single page. Our recommendation should be, let's add more pages to your site. Let's add more content to your site. Let's ensure that we have that 1-to-1 ratio. Right? A page of 300 words of content isn't necessarily suitable for H2, H3, and H4 headers. Yes, they bring some benefit. Yes, every page should have H1 headers by minimum. But when you get into 200 to 300 words of content, H2 and H3 headers become unnecessary. You're adding a header for a header's sake. That's something that's going to be unattractive, and it's going to end up taking your visitors out of your client's content. Don't optimize for optimization's sake. Optimize because it's appropriate. Right? And as I mentioned, every page should have H1 headers. Every page should have one image to optimize, but keep within reasonable amounts. 1, 2, 3 images, fantastic. If a page has 500 to 1,000 words of content, yes, break it up with bulleted lists. Break it up with subheaders, H2s and H3s. But if a page has 200 to 300 words of content, you don't need 6 images and 4 different types of headers to it. Know when enough is enough, and that's appropriate on a page-by-page basis. Again, we shouldn't be blanket implementing SEO optimizations for the sake of implementing SEO optimizations. Okay? And rookie mistake number 5 is not asking the right questions. Now, a client is potentially a lifelong relationship. That's our goal. Right? To get a client to renew and stick around forever. I know that I've had clients that have been around for my entire career, and those are the great clients, and they're around because I've managed to build great relationships with them and ask the right questions. Going back to the client conversions, or what is a conversion to the client, and communicating conversion successes to the client, you need to ask them, what does success mean to you? Right? What does success mean to you personally, and what does success mean to the client? Success to you might mean organic traffic is increasing, rankings are increasing, visits to conversion pages are increasing. And that might look great from the data that you're receiving, but if the client's not seeing any end benefit from it, why not? Right? Are you asking your client, or are you telling your client? Are you telling your client you've received 16 conversions this month? Right? but then they're coming back and saying, I've only received 2 sales through the site this month, right? You have to ask the right questions. We are observing 16 completed forms on your site. How many confirmed conversions has that led to for you? That's a right question, right? You are not an expert in your client's business yet. When you start a new client on board, we know very little about their business. We need to ask them about their business. What are their top sellers, right? Do they have seasonal difficulties, right? If they're a lawn care business, what do they do during the winter, right? Do they have secondary or tertiary offerings? If your client sells motorcycles, do they also sell maintenance and service? Do they also sell accessories? What emphasis and what weighting do they want placed on those offerings as well? It's great that we target their primary offerings, but we should also be devoting some of their keywords to their secondary and tertiary offerings, right? For something like a heating and cooling business, in the winter we want to be focusing on the heating aspect of the business, but we don't want to be neglecting the cooling aspect of the business either, because when we get into the cooling season, we're going to have to be starting from scratch because we've neglected it for months, right? Know the difference between what they want and what you can provide. If a client wants 10 pages of optimization being 1,000 words of content each, that's not necessarily something that we want to recommend to them. We want to know what the client wants, and we want to know what the client should be expecting. And that goes into this point of setting those expectations. Temper what we can and should be providing. As mentioned, not every page of the client site needs 1,000 words of content. If the function of a client site is to display the brands that they have available, all that site needs or all that page needs is 500 words of content maximum, and then funnel them out to the specific brand pages, which might have some more information. You don't need 1,000 words of content on a page that a visitor is going to spend 30 seconds on looking for the brand that they want, right? That's not going to bring any benefit to anybody, and it's a better use of our time to spread out a deliverable like that across multiple pages, right? Set a client's expectations by asking them what they're looking for and what they want. A client might not know what they want, and in that case, it's our responsibility to find out what the right questions are. And additionally, a client's not afraid to say no to your request. You might request that they reformat their Contact Us page to ensure that their form is at the top of the page. And they might say no to that for various reasons. They might not have the development time. They might not have the resources. But we should also learn to say no to some of their requests. We all have clients that try to overstep their bounds from time to time. It's the give an inch, take a mile perspective on this one, right? You might give the client a little something extra 1 month just to reward them for being a fantastic client or to shore up some deficits in a campaign, but then the client might expect that every month, and it's our responsibility to temper them on that. Again, setting those expectations. Know what they can and what they should be receiving. Right? We know what's best in terms of optimization, but they know what's best in terms of their business. Ask the right questions, and we're all on the same page.
Thank you, Chris, for your feedback. I mean, this is very, very valuable. And I know that we have a couple of ICs that are, pretty brand new when it comes to SEO, but this could be applied to any digital marketing strategy, right? Thank you. Excellent. We're kind of getting to the end of our webinar, and you know what? We do have a lot of great questions that we will answer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the team follow up with you individually. And what we'll also do is we'll have a follow up next week in regards to discussing some of these questions that were brought up. So that way we can have the team also hear from other ICs and keeping the webinar very interactive. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Chris, for joining us as well. And I believe that Michelle just want to touch base very quickly before we go on our monthly promotions.
Yes, thank you, Armando. Good afternoon, everybody. Just wanted to send out a reminder, let you all know that we do have our January and February promotion, which is the 5-page WordPress templated theme website development. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Amalia, or Armando. It is for a 5-page site, $699, and you can also receive extra pages. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll be happy to walk you through it and also provide you with some examples.
Excellent. Thank you once again for joining us. And again, we will take your questions that you've given us, and we'll definitely email you. I'll have the team email you directly, and we will showcase some of the top questions next week. I know there were some great questions, so trust me, we will continue on these topics. And thank you for your questions and your attendance. Have yourself a great week, and we'll be here back next week. Take care. Bye bye.